thank you for the introduction. I have a master's degree in political science, and since I entered into the animal rights movement, I've always been very interested in the lobbying and the idea of working with politicians to advocate for animals. Last year I did a research on the politicization of the animal rights movement in France, because that's my country. And so this is like the product of this research. So I guess the first question that we can ask ourselves is, what is politicization? What do I mean by this word? And politicizing is making an issue, a social issue, a political issue. And so I think our goal could be making issues involving animals, whether it is livestock farming, hunting, bullfighting, any kind of animal cruelty issue, a political issue. So, first two questions we can ask ourselves is, how does the political field today bypasses issues involving animals? Because as we can see, politicians or representatives, they very rarely defend animal rights issues. Usually they're not very interested. There's a minority of these people who sometimes defend animals or are interested in improving their conditions, but it's never enough for us. So how does these politicians sort of avoid defending the issue? Second question is, what processes and what strategies are to be redefined by us, the animal activists, whether we are individual activists or members of animal protection organizations or politicians, to achieve this politicization and in long term, hopefully, making all these issues issues that are inside the political arena, that are serious issues that are debated and discussed among the politicians, and this way we'll achieve something. So that's the two questions that we can ask ourselves. So as you can see, it's like a basketball field. I thought it was interesting to put it this way, we have always in a game, for me it's like a game, we have the people with us that are the operators of this political field, of these politicization, and we have the opponents. So in the first part, I think it's going to be interesting to focus on these issues, see who are the players in this game. And secondly, focus a little bit more on what have we done to politicize these issues so far, and what is to be done? What are all the limits that we're facing to politicize this question? And those are, of course, there's a lot of factors. So, of course, us as a movement, we're responsible for this failure to politicize issues, but of course, we are faced to a difficult situation as well. So first of all, we have the operators of this politicization, and I've divided the operators in two categories. First of all, we have the classic and traditional mobilizations, and then we have the new emerging forces. So the traditional ones, they're the ones who have that are in the battlefield, I would say, for a long time. They have been there for a long time. So of course we have the animal protection organizations. In France we have about 300 organizations. You can see one of these most famous ones. We have like French rooted organizations, and we have like subdivisions of bigger international organizations such as PETA, Sea Shepherd. Then we have in the parliament, the French parliament, we have what we call study groups. And these study groups, they are composed of parliamentarians, and they gather and they talk about how they can make the issues that are that they're fond of politicized. So we have an animal rights study group, well, should I say maybe more animal protection. So it was created in 1987, and today it gathers about 40 MPs, knowing that the French Parliament, there's about 560 members of the Parliament. And of course, then we have a field of experts, intellectuals, scientists, philosophers, astronomers, law professors, all these intellectuals that manage to deepen the theory, the animal rights theory, and that are helping also to politicize this issue. So those are the traditional mobilizations. We have new mobilizations that have emerged for, I would say, since last decade. So I have more players on this category, but I thought it would be interesting to reduce it, because you're not most of you are not so interested about this. So we have a think tank that focuses mostly on the environmental issues. That was created in 2013, and what's interesting is that this think tank comes directly within the political arena, because it was created by two people that are pretty influential in the political field. One is a senator and the other is a magistrate. So they're pretty influential because they're already involved or accepted in the political field. And then we have, of course, the French Green Party, and they are taking more and more stands in favor of animals. For example, in France, they took a stand against bullfighting. They promoted animal testing alternatives. They also took a stand against some types of hunting. So of course they're not an animal rights party, but they're helping. And like 3 weeks ago, a new commission was created about the animal condition. So it's a major victory. So these are the operators of this politicization. Now, who are our opponents? Again, I have done two categories. One are the upholders of patrimonial and traditional interests, and the others are the upholders of economic interests. So the traditional and patrimonial interests, of course, we have the hunters first. The hunters in France are a very powerful lobby group. First of all, they managed to sort of calculate the number of hunters there in France, and there's about 1.2 million of hunters. They're huge economically. They have a lot of hunting associations, and they represent a lot of jobs. On top of this, they are the biggest study group in the parliament. So remember when I said there was 40 members of the parliament for animals? There's 120 members of the parliament defending hunting. So it means that inside the parliament, 120 people, whenever there's a legislation that is going to try to, for example, ban some types of hunting, these MEPs are going to be here to defend it. The hunting field gained a lot of power when a political party emerged. It's called Hunting, Fishing, Nature and Tradition. Of course, I translated it. It's in French. So, of course, it defends all kinds of traditional values, including livestock farming, including fishing. They won influence from 1992, and they left the political arena because they lost all their seats in 2004. So they mainly won regional seats, which are like local seats, and they were pretty influential. Even if they were like a little party group, they had a lot of seats. And they left in 2004 because of the change of the nature voting system. So it was not in their favor anymore because they were a small political group. And so now they're not in the political arena anymore. But the fact that they don't have any seats doesn't mean that they're not influential anymore. The fact that they stayed, even for a little amount of time, inside the political arena means that now they have a lot of connections inside the political field. They know a lot of people, and besides, the politicians today, our politicians, know that there's 1.2 million hunters that are ready to vote for anyone who will defend their values, their interests. So they're small but very efficient. And of course, we have a lot of representatives who are passionate hunters or defending the hunting activities, starting with our Prime Minister, the President of the National Assembly, the President of the Senate, so both are the President of the Parliament. We have our Minister of the Environment and the Minister of our Agriculture. Yay. We have also one of member of parliament. I don't know if you know him. He was a famous judoka. So of course we have the advocates of the bullfighting culture. So we have about 60, or between 60 and 70 cities that are welcoming bullfights in France, and they have also a study group. So as you can see, they have less members defending bullfighting, but they're bullying. They're real bullies inside the parliament. So they managed to put the pressure, because in France lots of actions have been taken to try to ban bullfighting in these last cities. And then we have the supporters of the French gastronomy, foie gras producers, who are also defended inside the parliament, and we have 200 MPs defending this issue at the parliament. So that was for the stakeholders of the traditional and patrimonial interests, and now we have the upholders of economic interests. So we have, of course, the agribusiness. So, as you know, it's the first sector in terms of revenue. It's huge. I'm sure you have all of this in other European countries. 10,000 companies in France, 400 employees. They are supported by this main lobby group, National Federation of Agriculture Holders Union Lobby. Big budget, lots of members, and they're very reactive on the political field. When last year organizations tried to improve the legal status of animals in France, they managed to be reactive, and the day after this proposal passed, this proposal was floored into the parliament, this lobby group sent an open letter to the President of France saying, please don't do anything, that will kill jobs, that will kill our economy. And then, of course, these interests are also defended inside the parliament. So that was for the contest, like the players, the operators, and the opponents. Now I thought that would be interesting to see how have we, what are the way that we have led, what are the things we have done, because we can say today the animal issues are politicized at some extent. So this politicization has already started thanks to many players and factors, starting with the activists. In France, we have lots of activists, and they're a real resource in terms of number, in terms of donations, when we have demonstrations, happenings, when we have petitions to sign, when we have letters to send to the government, to members of minister, to parliamentarians. We've always like thousands of activists that are, taking the streets and doing all these actions. We have also organizations able to advocate for animals in the political field. And they have tools that, for example, they are able to raise awareness on animal rights issues. They educate, they are here in conferences and events. They raise public awareness. They broadcast and make issues visible. Sorry, it's a little bit out of focus. So these tools, they are able to send press releases, and they have a list of contacts of press that they have tools that make it possible for them to raise awareness on a broad stage. And then, of course, there are lobbyists, we can say. They meet representatives of the parliament, they meet members of the minister, the government. So they are lobbyists in a way. And then, of course, we have a lot of politicians, a certain amount of politicians that are passionately protesting against some types of animal cruelty. Some of these politicians have their issue. For example, these two politicians, that was a photo taken in 2004, and these two politicians are very anti-bullfighting. It was a demo, and it's interesting because when we defend animals, politicians are on the entire broad area of the political arena. So we have politicians from the left wing, and we have from the right wing. And of course, we have an evolution on the public opinion that is, more and more people are, concerned about animal suffering. They're more and more sensitive to their suffering, and they progressively realize that animals are persons. So I have lots of surveys, but these surveys too. You must have some too. So I thought what would be also interesting is to focus on the limits. So now, how come we're at this point? Because even if we've managed to politicize the animal questions at some extent, we have still a long way to go. Because today, animal exploiters are the dominants in this field. So I've tried to, in my research last year, I tried to categorize different kinds of limits to this politicization. First of all, we have a socioeconomic and cultural model based on the massive use of animals. So it's mainly cultural. So we have an anthropocentric culture and philosophical legacy. So anthropocentric, the human is at the center of the universe, is the superior species. And philosophers such as Kant, Descartes, Rousseau, and Plato didn't help us at all. And they created this, they invented this theory about what I tried to translate as the human specifics. In French, it's le propre de l'homme. And so humans' ability to evolve their highly developed conscience make them superior compared to other kinds of animals, other species of animals. And this philosophy was helped also by the Christian theology. The God created humans as an image, or when Jesus Christ sacrificed himself, he did it so to save humans, not the animal kingdom. So that was a part of the Genesis that was interesting, I thought. that says, then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over the creatures that move along the ground. So then we have a civil society that is not ready to abandon animal products. So we said earlier that there's a progression in terms of the public opinion being sensitive to animals. And yet, we are in a society that I think never exploited more the animals, which is a paradox. So, and besides, we have a low rate of vegetarians and vegans still. I think the number is between 2 and 3% in the population in France. So that was for the socio-economic and cultural model. Then we have a political field that is pretty much reluctant to open the debate on animals' conditions. So we have today representatives that first, there's no high representatives that addresses any animal issues. When I say high representatives, I say members of the government, the ministers, or the famous politicians that we see on TV. No high-profile representative today defend the animal question. Secondly, our policymakers are constantly trying to postpone the debate. They're trying to avoid these questions, issues regarding the improvement in animal conditions. These issues, they bother them. They bother them. There are problems. There are additional problems they have to take care about. And they don't have time, and they don't want to take the time to take care of these issues. And then the causes that we defend, they are struggling to effectively echo in the political field. So it's like we don't have any allies in the political field. We're just defenders of animals. We could try to ally with other social movements, with ecological movements, but we do not. So we're sort of lonely in the political field, which is even harder for us to put some light on our issue and try to attract the attention of our politicians. Secondly, the political field, our politicians today, their job is to bypass the problem to avoid to deal with it. So we have to understand that politicians, they don't have only our issues to deal with. They have many requests, many files to deal with, many problems to take care of. And so one of their main job is to first make announcement effects and implement burial strategies in order to avoid these issues. They try to bury the problem so they don't have to take care of it, and it's a problem solved. So what we say in the political jargon is they try to extinguish fires. So for the politicians, we are any issue that we try to make a statement of or try to attract the attention of, it's a problem, it's a fire. And when politicians, they can't avoid dealing with a problem, for example, where the public opinion is so focused on this issue, the media have talked so much about this issue that the politicians can't ignore the problem. Then they try to keep control of the issue's definition. And for example, for the animal legal status that we dealt with, we tried to one of the parts of the legislations in France was considering animals, still defining animals as property. And so we tried to change these definitions, stating that animals are sentient beings. And politicians, they really put their claws on this issue because the it was a storm media, and so they said, we're gonna change the status of the animals on this legislation, but don't worry, it's only going to be on the paper. It's not going to change the animals' conditions. So they were saying, we're going to change this legislation so that animals defenders will be happy, they will have their animals or sentient beings, but don't worry for the hunters and the livestock farmers, you're going to have your jobs. It's not going to affect the economy. Another issue that we have to deal with is in our own movement. We sometimes don't make everything possible to politicize the issue. And so sometimes the organization's work neutralize the politicization process. So first of all, in France, we have, I would say, a fragmented environment that is more competitive than united. When a cause emerges in the political field, when there's an issue that has a chance to improve the lives of animals, organizations have a hard time sticking together, being united, and help this issue that maybe they didn't bring up first, but they have a hard time uniting behind it and try to push it so that it has a chance to pass. We have a well-rooted culture of competition in France, and maybe in other countries in Europe, and sometimes that doesn't benefit the movement because it creates a dispersion of forces. So most of the time when an issue will attract a little bit of attention, the other organizations won't help them, making this issue politicized. It was one of the persons I interviewed last year, and she was a former president of a big organization in France. She told me, we have a deficit in terms of structure, of organization and lobbying, while we have to face a systematic opposition who perfectly understands how the political game works. Secondly, we have understood the importance of lobbying pretty late. What is lobbying? So lobbying is putting pressure on the political field, on the decision makers, so that we influence the legislative process and the decisions that are made. So today, lobbying is a crucial issue if we want to make of this animal rights movement a political movement. And we recently understood that it's important to lobby because all our opponents, the animal exploiters, the livestock farming, the fur industry, they all have tons of lobbyists. They put so much money on lobbying that they're very strong. They have a lot of connections, and it's very easy for them to maintain their exploitation on animals. So I would say that two major problems we have is, first, we have a lack of professional lobbyists in the field. We lack political lobbyists defending animal issues. And secondly, when there's a politicization work that is being done, it's most of the time done, what I say, from the above. It means that organizations contact the high decision makers, but they never use this great resource that we have, which is the activists. We have a lot of activists, and we could use this resource to try to put pressure on our decision makers, saying, hey, there's 100,000 activist people that are not okay with what you're supporting, with the laws that you're passing, or with the decisions that are being made today. And thirdly, we have representatives today that when they defend the animal rights issues, when they defend they try to improve the condition of animals, they are not visible enough. We have a lack of visibility on their constituent support. Again, like I said, politicians, they have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of requests. And when they defend the animals, most of the time, they don't really know whom in their constituency will support them. So they're already swamped with requests, with files, with work. They're subjected to other external and internal constraints. They sometimes also have roles in their political work. They have they are sometimes at the head of commissions, they are rapporteurs, and they're facing a constant competition with their peers. They have to be reelected. So when politicians defend the animal questions today, it's mostly because they're sensitive to the animals themselves. But it doesn't bring any vote today to vote to defend animals. And I put this photo of this former French MEP. She was from the Green Party, Sandrine Bélier. And she was really the only one at the former mandate that she really was defending the animal issues. And she was the only one from the French MEPs that was not re-elected. Are there other holes in terms of strategy? And this was not from my research, but from the former presentation that I've done with the debate. I've had new information, and I thought it was really interesting. Representatives, politicians, never come from our movement. And I think it's important that us together, all of us in this room, ask ourselves, could I be elected? Could I be a representative at any stage of the political field? Maybe at the local stage, maybe, just in your city. Why not us? Why should we wait for politicians to defend the animals? Why should we wait for people to defend the animals? Why we could be these representatives. And really, when you look at these people, they're just like us. They're just like us, except most of the time they defend their interest. And so they defend what they believe in. And another issue that was brought to me is that most companies today exploiting animals, with the dairy industries, the meat industries, they don't really have their reputation tarnished. Most of the time, we see these brands, and of course us, we think bad things about them, but the public opinion, they will see this, well, they're French brands, but you have your own in your country maybe, and most of the time, people won't associate these brands to animal suffering, animal cruelty, and maybe there's a work to be done on this issue as well. So that was for the different limits to the real politicization, and I'm sure there's many more, but these are some of them that I thought were interesting. Sorry, does someone know how much time I have left? Okay, sweet, perfect. So the last part of my presentation is focusing on the tools that have the opposition, our opponents, the animal exploiters. It's a very organized opposition that has a strange hold on the political field. Their main goal is to prevent the debate of any issues regarding animal conditions to open. So their goal is, we do not talk about animal conditions in the political field, because they know that when we will open this box, things will be bad for them. Because obviously, when we talk about the conditions of animals, and when we deepen on these issues that the animals are going into, of course nobody thinks it's right. So the first major thing that I thought was really important to highlight is that the opponents, our opponents, whether they are the hunters, the livestock farming, the fur industry, all the animal exploiters, they're very united and they're very politicized. And they have a deep connections at every stage of the political arena. So unlike us, sometimes, they are very good at uniting themselves. When a legislation will try to pass, try to improve the conditions of animals, when any decision will pass to try to improve the conditions of animals, they have this ability to unite themselves. They will stick together, hunters, farmers, bullfighters, and they will stick together because they know that they have common interests. They're very good when it comes to lobbying. Of course, they have understood that a long time ago. So like I said, they have a lot of budget on this activity, lots of lobbyists. They're an excellent communication network. They have connections at all stages of the political field, at the local field, at the national field. They're kind of everywhere. They have federations everywhere. When there's a decision that try to pass to decrease their power, decrease their industry, try to break this big industry of them, they will be very reactive. Because they have these connections, they get the information sooner than everybody. This is what a lobbyist's job is, to get the key information that will get you to have, to anticipate the decisions that are made. And when you anticipate these decisions, well, usually you manage to have these decisions whether passed or suppressed. And of course, the opponents are a big economic power that usually have a lot of weight, carries a lot of weight on the politicians. Of course, they use this economic and social power to maintain the political pressure. And when we have politicians that defend animals, when they're sensitive to these issues, they usually are opposed to take decisions, pass legislations that are going to help suppressing the sectors using animals. So usually they're welfareists, not animal rights activists. So they're okay to improve the conditions of animals, but when it comes to stopping the exploitation of animals, of course, they're not going to be on board. And another thing that I didn't note on this screen, but one of their major tools is that one of their strategies is to make a caricature out of the activists. So anyone will try to defend animal issues or even try to say we should improve the conditions of animals. They're going to be caricatured or as extremists or sensitive people, crazy people. That's a big tool that they use. So in conclusion, I think what we can say is we are a strong movement when it comes to raising awareness, but we need to be a political movement as well, because we can't forget that our opponents today, they're the kings in the political field. And we are just trying to get there, and I think we should not underestimate the progress we can make in the political field. So we should ask ourselves, if each single one of you doesn't know your representatives, the people who represent you at each stage, even at the European Parliament, your parliament, in your city, you should try to make connection with them, watch these people, make sure they know that you you follow their work, and maybe, you know, have a meeting with them, tell them the issues that you're defending. We need to be politicized. We need to put both our hands in the political movement, because there's a boulevard when it comes to improving the conditions for animals, and long-term speaking, achieving what we all want is the end of the animal exploitation. So, thank you for your attention. That was my presentation. So, do we have time for questions?
If there are some very witty ones and important ones, maybe someone has one, we can take 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yes, thanks you for your talk. And you said that Christian theology hinders effort in animal protection. And I wanted to ask if the growing movement of atheists and religion critics and the laicistic system in France helps with this, or is it? Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Because in France you have a strict separation of religion and state. Do you think that this helps in our issue? Do you think that this helps us?
You mean coalition?
No, you have in France you have a. Yeah.
Comme la France est un État laïciste, est-ce que ça aide?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean religion based? No, it's a laicist country. Sorry, I don't know what to say.
But do you think that this separation helps the progress in France opposed to other countries, because you don't have that great influence like in other countries?
Yeah, I see. Okay, I see what you mean. No, I don't think it's related. Really, when it comes to. No, I don't think so.
Hi, thank you. You mentioned yourself that most of what is being done politically is welfarist, and that we have a lot of example of in different European countries and within the EU. So I think the big question is, how can we fight for animal liberation within the political system? And do you have any more concrete ideas how to do that?
Yeah, I would say it's the difficult issue, is that today, when you want to improve the lives of animals in the political field, you can't talk about animal rights really. Even in my resume, and I had colleagues that advised me to take off any animal rights word and change it into animal welfare. So usually today, the animal rights movement in general, it scares people. So how can we do to invade the political arena with animal rights messages? That's, I think, a very good question. And I think there's a lot of research to be done on which strategy to implement. But I think it also goes one step at a time. And all the work that is done today to improve animal conditions, because that's what it's done today. We try to have bigger cages for chickens, for example. We try to suppress some tortures that are done on, for piglets, for example. But it's a step towards what we're going to achieve. And I wonder if sometimes we have bigger eyes that, our appetite. I think maybe we should start with lowering our expectations, because let's face it, on the political field, if you ask to banish an industry, it's not going to happen. So today what we can try to do, for example, is when it comes to the hunting field, try to ban certain types of hunting, you know, stagging, for example. These, you know, very, that, you know, types of hunting that will, that the public opinion can relate to and say, yeah, of course it's horrible, you know. And maybe eventually we'll get to this point where we'll say, well, what about, you know, simply abolishing hunting? But it will come also with new generations, because I think new generations have a role to make, because I think new generations, they will you know, outpass these traditions that we have today and that are so important for a lot of people. And this is why I think it's super important to educate, to do more work on education. And really, sometimes I wonder why we don't have more activities done to go to classes, to go to kids, and tell them about what is an animal and what cruelty are done to them. You know, always in a stay, of course, in a pedagogic way. Like, you know, you're talking to children, so you have to be careful. But I think it's very important that we increase our effort on educating the next generation, because when the next generation will know about these issues, it will be easier for us to, you know, politicize the movement, you know, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Yeah.
One more question, maybe. Who was first? I don't know who was first.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I was wondering, what about European Parliament? Mm-hmm. I've heard that there's a possibility of a petition signing, and if you reach 1 million signs, then they have to acknowledge the idea and they have to deal with it. What about that?
Yeah. It's possible to. Mm-hmm.
Like an initiative,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps from you, because you have the knowledge and everything, so we could.
Yeah. You know, the EU institutions work, like the functioning is very hard. It's very complex, but that's true what you're saying. There's a way to, when you have a certain amount of signatures for a petition, the Commission has to have a look at it. There are other ways you can influence the European Parliament. Is, first of all, to if you don't know your member of the European Parliament who represents you, make sure you know who he is and go vote. Sorry, I really think that it's very important to vote anyways, even if they're all bad. You vote for the worst, but we cannot say, we can afford to think I'm anti-system. The political system is so bad, I'm not going to vote. We need today to politicize ourselves in order to have power. And your MEP is very happy to know that you exist and that you have these issues that you want to talk to him. Of course, it's going to bother him if you come to him and say, what do you do on this and this and this? But at the same time, it will stick in his head that you want him to take a stand against bullfighting, for example, or against the captivity of animals. And the more citizens that he will have in his constituency, the more focusing he will take on the animals' issues. And today at the Parliament, the European Parliament, really the MEPs, they do what they want because the citizens, they don't even know who their representative is. So that's the problem today, I think. I don't know if I answered your question on what to do exactly, concretely, I think, on lobbying the European institutions. But I think it's a start. Know which MEP is representing you, watch his actions, and also I think we need to gather in the movement. to know how many of you in your country defend the animal rights issues. Sometimes I think we don't have this political map, like for example the hunters in France have. They know exactly how many there are. They're 1.2 million. So when they go meet the politicians, they say, hey, we have 1.2 million people that are going to be interested in you if you say you defend the hunting. Today, we can say that. I go to my representative and say, I don't know how many we are in my constituency that defend the animal issues. It's just me. So can you please do something? Well, he's going to say, well, of course it's going to be nice to me. But we don't carry any weight on the voting system. And so we have to create this mapping, system where we know exactly how many advocates are we, how many people are going to be willing to vote for representatives who defend the animals. And that, we don't have it today. This is why we're not a very efficient political movement in Europe today and nationally. So we really could do this. How many animal advocates are we in France, in Austria, in Germany? And then we gather this number and we get to say to the representatives, we're that many people. And if you if you defend these questions, you will get blah, blah, blah number of votes.
Thank you.
Okay. Good. Thank you.